You know the sound, that bright, satisfying three-note chime of a correct answer. You also know the other feeling, that cold spike of anxiety in your chest when a 7 p.m. notification lands. Your 542-day streak is in jeopardy. For years, this was the bargain we struck with the Green Owl. It was our persistent, slightly unhinged, but ultimately beloved language tutor. It was the internet's most successful educational app, a symbol of accessible, fun learning. And now that relationship is broken. The trust has evaporated. The users who built the Owl's multi-billion-dollar empire are now leading a revolt. The company that gamified learning is now facing accusations of securities fraud. And behind the scenes of the cute mascot and the viral marketing, a much colder, more logical mechanism has been running. This is the story of what happens when a mission to teach the world goes public, and then goes AI first. What is this Green Owl really hiding? The architect of the two-sided screen. To understand the owl, you have to understand the man who built it. His name is Luis von Ahn, and his story doesn't start with language. It starts with a problem. The year is 2000. Luis is a graduate student at Carnegie Mellon, and he's listening to a talk from a Yahoo executive. The problem? Spam. Automated bots were creating millions of free email accounts, overwhelming their system. Von Ahn, a native of Guatemala, had seen firsthand how access to technology and education separated the wealthy from the poor. He saw this not just as a technical problem, but a human one. His solution was a stroke of genius. It was called CAPTCHA, those distorted wavy letters you have to type to prove you're human. It worked. It solved Yahoo's bot problem. But for von Ahn, it was inefficient. He had calculated that humanity was collectively wasting 500,000 hours per day just typing those nonsense words. It was a massive, untapped human resource. This led to a second and far more brilliant invention, reCAPTCHA. You've seen this one too. It shows you two words. One is distorted to prove you're human. The other. The other is a blurry scan from an old book. You type both and the system confirms you're human. But in that moment, you have also just transcribed one word that a computer couldn't read. Without knowing it, you were helping to digitize the entire archive of the New York Times. This is the central philosophy of Luis von Ahn. He calls it two-sided human computation. Get millions of people to do a task they want to do, and in the background, get them to perform valuable work for free. It's a beautiful, elegant, and deeply cold system. He sold reCAPTCHA to Google in 2009, but he was already thinking about his next, far larger project. He returned to his childhood passion. Growing up wealthy in Guatemala, he saw that learning English was not a hobby. It was the single greatest driver of economic mobility. But quality education was prohibitively expensive. This was the problem he wanted to solve, and with his graduate student, Severin Hacker, he realized he could apply the reCAPTCHA model. What if he could teach people a language and at the same time get them to translate the internet? That was the initial pitch for Duolingo. It was a perfect two-sided machine. Users get a free high-quality language education. In return, they practice by translating real-world documents, which Duolingo could then sell. It was a noble mission wrapped around a brilliant business model. But that translation model, it never really worked. The money wasn't there, the real product, the real genius was something else entirely. The perfect machine. The Duolingo that we know today is not a language curriculum. It is a habit-forming engine. It is perhaps the most perfectly engineered behavioral mechanism on the App Store. The original mission to translate the web was quietly replaced by a mission to maximize retention. The genius of Duolingo is that it understands human psychology far better than it understands French grammar. It is a casino where the payout is a feeling of productivity. It's built on a foundation of interlocking psychological hooks, all meticulously A/B tested to find the precise combination that makes you stay. It starts with the most famous one, the streak. This isn't a reward, it's a liability. It's a direct application of loss aversion, the psychological principle that the pain of losing something is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. Keeping your 30-day streak doesn't feel like a victory. It feels like avoiding a failure. The anxiety is the feature. Data showed that introducing the streak freeze, a virtual item you can buy with in-app currency, reduced user churn by over 21%. They weren't selling a tool, they were selling insurance against your own anxiety. But a streak alone isn't enough, so they added leagues. Now you aren't just competing against yourself, you're on a public leaderboard. You are competing against Sarah K and Juan M 2005 for a spot in the Diamond League. This introduces social pressure and comparison, a powerful motivator that drives, by some estimates, over 40% of all user engagement. Then you have the ecosystem of rewards. The XP points, the badges, the gems, a virtual currency that creates an internal economy. Every single action is measured, rewarded, and optimized. The company famously A/B tests everything, from the shade of green on a button to the sound that chime makes when you get an answer right. They are searching for the perfect frictionless loop. A trigger, the notification, an action, the lesson, and a variable reward, the points and praise. It is a slot machine for self-improvement. And it worked. Millions of people loved it. It felt good. It felt productive. You were learning. You were building a habit. This relentless focus on retention, on the game rather than the education, was the real product. It created one of the most dedicated, locked-in user bases in the world. And that user base was about to become the fuel for an entirely different kind of machine. The Unhinged Mascot. The habit-forming engine was running, but to scale, it needed more fuel. It needed new users, millions of them. And in the crowded app store, free language learning was a boring sales pitch. Duolingo had a mascot, Duo the Owl, but it was just a symbol of wisdom. It was stale. The company's initial marketing attempts were generic and forgettable. They tried standard learn on TikTok campaigns, and they flatlined. The turning point came, as legend has it, when a junior marketing employee named Zaria saw the full-body Duo mascot suit sitting in a corner of the office during a meeting. The idea was simple. What if the owl wasn't just a wise teacher? What if he was the unhinged, chaotic manifestation of those threatening push notifications? It was a stroke of branding genius. They took the app's most manipulative, criticized feature, the guilt tripping, and turned it into a self-aware global meme. The new Duolingo TikTok account was born. Duo was no longer a tutor. He was an agent of chaos. He was seen twerking on a conference table. He was shown feuding with other brands and thirsting after pop stars. In one video, he appeared as a Roblox character wielding a baseball bat, with the caption, "This is what happens to your family when you don't do your lesson today, BTW." The strategy was entertainment first. It was bizarre, authentic, and it exploded. That first chaotic video of the mascot got 800,000 views, eclipsing everything they had done before. They had successfully transformed a utility app into a global entertainment brand. People followed the Duolingo account not because they wanted to learn Spanish, but because they wanted to see what the chaotic owl would do next. This massive, viral, and essentially free marketing campaign drove unprecedented growth. It was the final piece of the puzzle. In 2021, Duolingo went public on the NASDAQ. It was a spectacular success. The company that gave away its product for free was valued at billions of dollars. The machine was perfect. It had a core product that psychologically locked in users, and a marketing arm that drew in millions more for free. It was unstoppable. But then, it had to answer to Wall Street. The turning point. A publicly traded company serves one master: infinite quarterly growth. The pressure to increase revenue and cut costs is relentless. And Duolingo's perfect machine had one very expensive, very human bottleneck: the content. The actual language courses, the funny sentences, the cultural nuances, the expert-designed curricula. These were all created by hundreds of human contractors, linguists, translators, and curriculum experts who were paid for their time and expertise. In the cold logic of a quarterly earnings report, these people were a cost center. They were a bottleneck to scaling faster. In 2023, while still riding high, the company began integrating AI features. It launched Duolingo Max, a premium tier powered by OpenAI's GPT-4. It offered AI-powered features like Explain My Answer and AI-driven conversations. It was framed as a bold, innovative leap forward. The CEO, Luis von Ahn, declared that AI would one day recreate the experience of a human tutor and scale it to the world. Then, in early 2024, the other shoe dropped. The company quietly laid off about 10% of its contractor workforce. These were the very humans who built the app's soul. Shortly after, an internal memo from von Ahn clarified the new vision. Duolingo was officially going AI first. The memo was chillingly clear. The company would gradually stop using contractors to do work that AI can handle. It went further. Use of AI would now be included in performance reviews for full-time employees. The message wasn't that AI would help the humans. The message was that AI would replace the humans. To Wall Street, this was fantastic news. It was a clear-cut path to higher profit margins. But to the users who loved the app, it was a profound betrayal. The Great Deletion. The community that had been so meticulously cultivated, the users who evangelized the brand and cherished their streaks, felt the change almost immediately. The product felt different. It felt worse. The backlash was not a quiet trickle. It was a flood. Reddit forums and X feeds filled with complaints. Users weren't just angry about the layoffs. They were angry that the app they paid for was breaking. They reported a significant decline in quality, even in the most popular, well-established courses like French and German. The new AI-generated content was abysmal. It was soulless and robotic. It was making astoundingly obvious mistakes in pronunciation. The subtle human touch was gone. The witty, strange sentences that had become a hallmark of the brand were replaced by sterile, repetitive drills. The AI, it turned out, was very good at grammar, but it had no understanding of culture. It didn't know the subtle difference between tu and usted in Spanish, the very human nuance that real learning depends on. The brand that had been built on authenticity was now perceived as a fake. And in the midst of this user fury, Duolingo's marketing team made a baffling, desperate move. They deleted everything. The entire legendary TikTok account, with its millions of followers and billions of views, was wiped clean. The Instagram account was scrubbed. For days, the accounts were blank, replaced only with cryptic, bizarre videos. One was a crash-out video, a stuttering, Max Headroom-style clip of the mascot glitching out. What was once a clever, chaotic marketing stunt now just looked like a public meltdown. The unhinged owl had finally, truly lost its mind. The hidden truth. The user backlash was a disaster, but it wasn't the real story. Behind this public-facing meltdown, something far more serious was unfolding. And it suggests the AI-first pivot wasn't a bold vision for the future at all. It was a desperate cover-up. In August of 2025, the law firm Pomerantz LLP announced it was officially investigating Duolingo. The accusation? Securities fraud. These are not words thrown around lightly. The investigation centers on a crucial question. Did Duolingo and its officers mislead investors? According to the claim, the company's explosive user growth was already stalling, and management knew it. Here is the timeline. On July 28, 2025, analysts at JMP Securities downgraded their price target for Duolingo. They cited third-party data suggesting that daily active user growth, the company's most important metric, had decelerated significantly. It had dropped from a high of 51% year-over-year in the first quarter to just 39% in the second. This was a terrifying sign that the app was hitting a growth ceiling. On this news, the stock price plummeted, wiping out huge amounts of value. Now, look at the company's public statements during that same period. The CEO was telling investors that Q1 was an outstanding start to the year and that engagement remained strong. The allegation is that Duolingo was hiding the slowdown. The AI-first strategy, seen through this lens, looks completely different. It wasn't an innovation, it was a panicked cost-cutting maneuver. If user growth was slowing, the only way to keep profits high and satisfy Wall Street was to aggressively slash the company's biggest expense, its human workforce. The layoffs, the degradation of quality, the user revolt, it was all collateral damage in a race to protect the stock price. The company was willing to sacrifice its product to save its profit margin. The moral of the algorithm. The story of Duolingo is the perfect parable for the modern internet. It begins with a noble, human-centric mission to provide free education for the world. To achieve this, it borrows a brilliant, cold-blooded mechanism from a different project. Convince humans to do valuable work for free under the guise of doing something else. For years, that something else was a game. We felt like we were learning, but the real product we were building was a habit, a perfectly retained audience that could be monetized for billions. We weren't just users, we were the resource. The AI-first shift wasn't a change in strategy. It was the logical final step. It was the moment the machine no longer needed its human parts. The company that got us to digitize books for free decided it no longer needed to pay humans to write its own. In the end, what did the green owl really teach us? Maybe a few words of Japanese? Maybe a few verb conjugations? Or maybe it taught us a much harder lesson about the nature of a system. A lesson that any mission, no matter how noble, will eventually be consumed by the cold, logical, and relentless demands of an algorithm designed for infinite growth. So, what did you really learn from Duolingo? And what are you willing to trade for that feeling of progress? Drop your thoughts below.